Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. If you've been following my Substack or this channel for a while, you may know that I have had a reading challenge on Goodreads, which I am now past the number of books I wanted to read this year. And looking at previous years, I either have an average of reading this many books or God, there was one year, I think it was 2016, I read 175 books in one year. Looking back, I don't know. I don't know how I was able to accomplish that. I assume that a lot of that was audiobooks slash books, maybe even some YouTube audiobooks in there. I don't know. But somehow back in 2016, 2017, somewhere around there, yeah, 175 books that year. I will not be reaching that this year. No, I set the goal at 30. I'm now at 32 for the year. And this is an update on some of the recent books that I have read. So to get started, not really a book, but hey, it's on Goodreads. This is the Pimsleur Basic Japanese. I just finished this yesterday, and by finished, I mean doing all 10 of the lessons, progressing to the next lesson when you can repeat 80 to 100% of the things in that lesson before moving on to the next one, which each lesson goes back and repeats words and phrases from previous lessons so that you're constantly in a rotation of learning the same thing. Having said that, konnichiwa. Moving on, let's get some of the courses out of the way that I've done. Yes, this is a college level course. This is from the Great Courses, Great World Religions, the Buddhism course. I studied Buddhism for a period of time. A lot of that had to do with my interest in martial arts, and then later reading stuff like Brad Warner's books on Soto Zen. And I really just wanted to get reacquainted with Buddhism in general. Now, this is like an overall guide. It's not focused on any certain type of Buddhism. So it goes through like the whole history, and then in the end, it is Theravada Buddhism in Southeast Asia, Tibet, China, Japan. Like it's pretty decent. Each lecture is like 25 to 30 minutes long. So in a sense, what you're doing with the Great Courses is you're taking a college level course on your own at home with no tests, no pressure, which means you might actually learn something. And I believe this one was discarded from a library because obviously the case is missing. They like to recycle stuff like that back in the day. And everything was put back in its original sleeves and cases. So that one I finished a couple weeks ago, I think. Maybe a week or two ago. On to the next one. Winter Morning Walks by Ted Kooser. This is a collection of poems, and what Ted did was he wrote a series of postcards to Jim Harrison. They both had an interest in Buddhism. They're both writers, both poets, and Ted got into poetry and decided that for a while he's going to write a new poem to Harrison. Not every day. There are days that skip in here. He has the dates that they were written. Basically, the names of each poem is a description of the day. Sunny, still and cold. Clear and at freezing point. So it's not very imaginative when it comes to that, but at the same time, this is what he is describing. clear and still, 8 degrees at 6 a.m. So it was very creative. I did like a lot of the descriptions. Some of them really stood out to me for what they were. And this is a play on Harris doing his letters to Janison. So really enjoyed that one. Kind of ties in with my letters to Harrison, which I still need to finish editing. This one came my way as a donation to the library, but it for some reason was not added. This is a local writer, and I would encourage anybody to pick this up. I don't recall how much it cost on Amazon, but yeah, this guy, Dylan Harrington, I did get in contact with him after reading this because it was literally thrown out, which was horribly disappointing to me because I kind of view the public library as a go-between, a gateway between local readers and local writers. And if a local writer has a book out, as long as it's not, I don't know, offensive or horribly graphic in some kind of way, then why it wouldn't be added to the catalog, I don't know. But he's got his own play on the Metamorphosis by Kafka in here, which I thought was a pretty interesting twist on the original story from the get-go, really. And I do believe, from what he told me, the rest of these short stories were put together during a rough time he was having. I'll put it that way. And really, they were all written in the span of, I think, 2 weeks, and the third week was editing. So I like the artwork too. Not done by the author, but it kind of reminds me of the artwork that you'll find at the Old Town Ale House across the street from Second City in Chicago, where the owner of the bar is a bit of an artist himself. And if you want to see more of that, there is an entire episode of Parts Unknown or No Reservations. I'm going to say Parts Unknown. Why Bourdain would go to Chicago during Parts Unknown, I don't know. But he had very similar artwork compared to this, where it was like Putin in a ballet outfit with a tutu, or a nude Sarah Palin with a shotgun. That kind of artwork. Clown on a toilet with a cigarette. Very Krusty the Clown. The last 3 books on this update. One is Utopia and Terror. I don't physically have these with me at the moment, but Utopia and Terror was a Great Courses class that I listened to. It was a lot longer. I think it was twice as long as the Buddhism course, which was a relatively short course, by the way. But Utopia and Terror, I think, took me like a week and a half, 2 weeks to get through, covering all the all the ways in which communism doesn't work, and socialism, and all the other bullshit things that were tried in the 20th century and killed tens of millions of people during that time period. It covered Mao, Stalin, Hitler, Pol Pot, like it covered all, Saddam Hussein. So it goes through all of that, why things obviously didn't work, what they all had in common in gruesome detail. But I felt like that was a really good course. And the thing is, a lot of these you'll find, these are not new. So this was, I believe, 2003. So over 20 years ago, this was released. And Utopia and Terror was about the same time. It didn't even have the Iraq war in it. Did it cover 9/11? I don't remember. Maybe it was 99 that one was done. But I don't think it had 9/11 in there. Didn't have the Afghan war. So, yeah, like all the stuff we're familiar with after 2000, 2001 wasn't even covered in Utopia and Terror. But hey, it was also supposed to be about the 20th century and why this shit doesn't work. So that was a good one. The last two, Child of God by Cormac McCarthy. Listen to that on audiobook. It's a relatively short book. I'm not a big aficionado of Cormac McCarthy as Right Consciousness is, his YouTube channel, where he's got a ton of videos on McCarthy, David Foster Wallace, and a few other authors that he really does a huge deep dive into. But Child of God, it's a book in 2 parts, and this dude, for some reason, he's a necrophiliac. Come to find out, the main character in the book is a necrophiliac who suddenly gets this idea of like, if I just come across these couples or women alone and they don't want to do what I want to do, well, they're going to one way or another. And it was pretty graphic in some cases. Yeah, Child of God. One hell of a story. So definitely one that keeps your attention. You're wanting something bad to happen to this dude. And in the end, I don't know if the ending was really fitting. I think it was trying to flip things around with the main character so that he's experiencing what the other people that he did things to experience, but at the end it's like, not really. So kind of a weird sense of justice if that's what he was getting at. And the last book, the one that I really enjoyed this time around, was The Elephant of Surprise by Joe R. Lansdale. Lansdale actually, I fell in love with his stuff again when Hap and Leonard came out at Sundance, but it was released on Netflix. And God, how long ago was that? So I watched that series. It was 2 or 3 seasons. Great series. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But this is another Hap and Leonard novel, and Lansdale and I kind of go back to the 90s because he was doing Batman the Animated Series. He was doing comic books back then, which I was collecting back then. And I remember coming across his stuff at that time and becoming interested in him, but there really wasn't that much out there that he had to offer 30 years later. I'm going on thrift books and just clicking on titles that I've never read, haven't heard of, not familiar with, but I like his stuff. Very, very fast. He has a great way of doing dialogue with the characters and bringing out the actual characters themselves. Like very character-based stories, very character-driven. I'm currently reading Freezer Burn, which I think is a relatively newer book from what I understood on a podcast that I was listening to with him in it. But Elephant of Surprise, action-packed, kind of goes along with the Assault on Precinct 13 type stories. There's also an escape from a hospital, like action-packed. It's definitely very action-packed. Could be turned into a movie if somebody wanted to. Because it's got these elements of, oh God, what was the Hard Boiled? Hard Boiled. Anybody remember that John Woo movie with Chow Yun-fat? And he's in the hospital and he's saving the babies, but there's a shootout going on. You know, the Chow Yun-fat going like this. And then, you know, they run out of bullets, so he's, ugh. Not necessarily that bad, but you got a hospital escape shootout scene, you got a high-speed chase, You've got an assault on a county jail, an assault on a house. I mean, it's pretty good. I loved it. Great book. And I do love Joe R. Lansdale's stuff. If you're not really familiar with him, you should be because of things like Bubba Hotep. That was a short story that he wrote and turned into a cult classic. So, and Critters. If you're familiar with 80s movies, Critters was one that he wrote. Yeah. So, that is where I'm at. I'm at 32 books for the year so far. I have a feeling, let's see here, we're in May. I don't know what the summer's going to look like, but I'm guessing I'll be over 50 by the end of the year. Not my best. Like, I was looking at previous challenges throughout the years. Some years I never even filled it out on Goodreads, but previous years I was at like 60, 75, somewhere around there for the year, which actually isn't bad. A lot higher than some of the other people on YouTube where they're like, I read 50 books this year. And I was like, that's pretty good. And it is pretty good. But no, it's time management. It's staying focused on what you're wanting to do. And when you got stuff like Joe R. Lansdale out there, there's no excuse to not currently be reading some because dude's got a huge catalog and great stories to tell. To finish this off, this little trinket here is available on Amazon. It is not my book. Dylan Harrington is the author. He's got some good stuff in here. Very Kafka-esque, as I would point out. And definitely some interesting horror slash how would I describe it? Definitely some dark humor. But yeah, alternate realities, if you will. So anyways, that's about it for me. Hope you enjoyed this. If so, if you're still here, like and subscribe. Till next time, keep on typing.